Welcome to this show discussing problems and issues of health with Dr. Alcena. For this segment of this show, I'm starting a new series on hypertension, which is basically an update. Since I've been doing the show in the last 27 years or so, I have done shows on hypertension multiple times. But many new things have occurred in the hypertension field in recent months and years. So I think that it is time that I do an update on it. Hypertension is one of the most common diseases in the world. There's 7.7 billion people in the world. 1.5 billion adults have hypertension in the world. In this country, this is a country with 329 million people. 1.103 million people in this country suffer from hypertension. 1 out of every 3 adults in this country have hypertension. And in the black/Negro community, 1 out of every 2 adults, black/Negro individual in this country, suffer from hypertension. And pay close attention to the word Negro. It is in particular important because of the disease hypertension. And I mean that in all sincerity. And you're going to, during this series, pay close attention. You're going to see how important it is for people to truly understand who they are, what they are, as opposed to fall into the pressure of American society to deny their ethnicity. And no other diseases is causing more damage to the brain, to the eye, to the heart, and the kidney than hypertension. And partly because people don't want to accept who they are. You say, well, how so? Well, because hypertension is a disease that affects people of all ethnicity and all race, etc. However, it affects people because the treatment of hypertension in different ethnic groups is completely different. And basically, it winds up, you could separate it in two ethnic groups. You either Caucasian or you're non-Caucasian. No matter what you think of yourself, that's your business. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a politician. I am a clinical scientist and a teacher of medicine. And I'm not here to tell people what they should think of themselves. That's their business. But when you understand what I'm going to explain to you, why hypertension is doing so much damage in this country and across the world. I was shocked last year when the European Society of Cardiology met, and I had a chance to read some of the findings of the discussion they had during that brilliant meeting that they had. I was shocked to find that whatever is happening to hypertension in this country is also happening to hypertension the rest of the world. Because America, this great country, has tremendous influence on the rest of the world. Whatever America does, some part of the world will follow. That's good in some instances, but also bad in other instances. Across the world, 1 out of every 4 adult males have hypertension. Across the world, 1 out of every 5 adult female have hypertension. Serious business. And you cannot be hypertensive without having your brain at risk, your eyes at risk, your heart at risk, and your kidneys at risk. But in the center of the disease hypertension is the organ called the kidneys. Hypertension wouldn't exist. The discussion I'm about to have with you wouldn't exist were it not for the center of the disease hypertension, which happened to be the kidney. The whole concept of essential hypertension which is responsible for 97% of all hypertension, is a condition called essential hypertension. The other 3% is made up of pheochromocytoma, which is a special tumor of the adrenal gland, and renovascular hypertension, which is when the arteries that carries blood to the kidney has little plaques, occlusion in them that blocks them. Blocking that circulation causes renovascular hypertension. Those three make 3%. The 97% is due to essential hypertension. Where did that come from? I'm sitting here speaking to you. I'm not on national television. I'm not looking for publicity, but I'm here to let you know. I had a house in Rockland County, which I no longer have. Many years ago, maybe close to 30 years ago, I was involved in writing a lot of articles, trying to get academic promotion, trying to make contribution, because in academia, you either publish or you perish. That's just the way it is. I was very aggressive, teaching all over the place, several places, Cornell, Columbia, through Harlem Hospital, Montefiore, Einstein, New York Medical College, all over the place, just trying to get ahead. I sat down on my kitchen table and I came up with an idea. What is this hypertension? Where did that come from? And from the top of my head, I had a pen and a yellow pad in my hand. I said, I bet you the way the human race survived is because our forebears in Africa, where they were exposed to this incredible, violent, negative ambient environment with the heat and water being very scarce, temperature in the high 100, 120, 125, constantly all over the place. How did these individuals survive without all collapsing? Because when you are in this environment, especially when you're working in the farms, you're sweating profusely. So as you're sweating, you're losing a tremendous amount of salt in the sweat. How do these people not collapse and die? There had to have been some place in the human body that something has been developed that allows them to hold onto enough salt, hold into enough fluid so they don't all collapse and die of dehydration. And I also drew a little bit from my own personal experience growing up in the peasantry of Haiti, whereby I started working in the farm when I was 9 years old, giving out water and helping people to light the pipe when they needed pipe. I did that for about a year, and by the time I was 10, I was a regular worker in the farm myself. If you don't know what it is like to work in the farm is almost always 3 hours or so on a minimum away from where people live. And you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 to walk, get there, because you have to start at 8. It's 8 to 5. And during that part of the farming season, the temperature in Haiti is about averaging over 120, 110, and you're walking barefooted and bareback. You can't wear any clothes because you would be completely soaked in sweat. How did somebody like me, who did that for about 10 years, I finally gave that up when I was about 19. I said, enough is enough, I'm going into town. That's how I survived. Working in the farm with a hoe in my hand, hot, water is very scarce because the river is far away. They bring water in calabash, put it in the back of the horse, and you have a little cup of water during the day to drink. How did somebody like me, using as an example, survive? That is not to say that I was not living in Africa, but the ambient situation, frankly, was somewhat similar. And I did it for 10 years. And I'm here to tell you, you'll say, well, you must have been making a lot of money for the day. I was not. I was making one good per day. And one good is the equivalent of 20 cents. I don't know what it is now, but it was equivalent. It could take 5 good to make $1. I did that, 20 cents per day. And I said, you know what? Let me use this experience, this negative experience, this brutal experience to try to do something positive. And as a prolific natural thinker, I said, I bet you there had to be a gene, a salt retaining gene that allowed people like me to survive what I went through and my forebears, Negro forebears in Africa. That's where the word Negro is crucial. I was here in this country, this great country, when the word Negro went from Negro to black to African American. I was right here. And nothing was done to discourage it because the people who would like to look in a negative way to Negroes like me loved the fact that all of a sudden they were black. Somehow the black sounds more inferior to the white as opposed to the Negro because people go to school, they know Negro was the original race of all races. This is the truth. Oh, they jump all over the place for Negro, African American. I was going to school. I was part of all this stuff. I will admit, I was in college, all the demonstration, etc. So I said to myself, I tell you, there has to be a gene, but I bet you it's located in the kidney. There had to be a gene that's located in the kidney because the kidney harbors a tremendous amount of gene. Because the kidney is not just there to get rid of urine. The kidney produces a tremendous amount of material every day. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sit here talking to you. We wouldn't be alive without some of the stuff that the kidney produces. You'll be amazed when you examine the physiology of the kidney to see how powerful the kidney really is. And I decided to write this up. So I came up with the idea. There had to be a gene. I don't know what the name of the gene was. And this thing got published. And little do you know, you can't make this up. Little did you know that because I know nothing about it, and I'm not into research. Little do I know that University of Virginia and Georgetown University, and subsequently Yale did it in rats or mice. But University of Virginia and Georgetown University, sure enough, had decided to set this up to see if it's real or not. And they didn't talk to me. I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with those universities, but I published the stuff. And they happened to have they collected kidney specimens from Caucasians American, from Japanese American, and from black folks from Ghana and Africa. So they have 3 different set of kidney specimens from 3 different set of ethnic groups. They grind these things up and sort it out individually, the DNA makeup of all these kidneys individually. And once you know, they came up with a gene. It's called G protein coupled receptor kinase type 4. Let me repeat that. G protein coupled receptor kinase type 4. Okay? That's the gene they discovered in all 3 individual ethnic groups, Japanese American, Caucasian American, and black from Ghana. All 3 groups have the same quality, the same quantity of that gene. Let me repeat that. All 3 ethnic groups have the same quantity, the same quality of G protein coupled receptor kinase type 4. And in the year 2002, exactly 2002, this was published in the Proceeding of the American Academy of Sciences. How about that? Hence, you can't make this up, hence the genesis of essential hypertension. This is the true story. You can't make this up. A whole lot of other people can take all the credit there when that's their business. I've been giving enough credit by the dozens of ideas that I came up with and published. So this is then the genesis of essential hypertension. How about that? And I'm sitting right here telling you about it. Because of that, then, there was an organization, I don't know if it still exists, JNC7, that was the last time it was in the committee that I know that they said anything. They may have done things since then. The JNC7 decided then that then being the case, then the treatment of essential hypertension must be changed. And they made the recommendation that the cheapest medication to treat blood pressure is hydrochlorothiazide. And because of that, then hydrochlorothiazide can be used by itself, and everybody will have functioning kidneys, and or can be combined with a long series of different medication that we call calcium channel blockers, such as verapamil, or AB, such as losartan, and so on and so forth. That's where that came from. So whenever you see all this combination of medications, now you know the genesis of that. It all came out from a recommendation by the GNC7 that believed that the gene that I proposed that was discovered is in fact real. So therefore, the treatment of hypertension must be changed. And subsequent to that, a European group called Anglo-Scandinavian group called the ASCOT study, go ahead because they have access to all people that they provide care for, both in England as well as in Scandinavia. So the ASCOT study did hundreds of thousands of patients. They went back and evaluated people who were having stroke, heart attack, congestive heart failure, hypertension. Only the ones that were receiving medication that has a hydrochlorothiazide in it, diuretic, and by itself, and was combined with a calcium channel blocker, an AB, were the one that responded the best to treatment, that has the decreased death rate as well. So the ASCOT study, you could look it up, was published, and the rest is history. Okay? So therefore then, the problem that we're having in this country, and for that matter, I was shocked to find out across part of the rest of the world, the fact that blood pressure, this most common disease of all diseases, is not being treated properly or not being treated at all. Because in this country, only 54% of the 103 million people who suffer from hypertension, only 54% have their blood pressure being controlled. And in the black/Negro population, which is the most common disease that black folks suffer from, somewhere around 28 to 30% have their blood pressure controlled. Hence the reason why so many strokes, so many heart attacks, so many congestive heart failure, so many kidney failures. That's it. Because as a modern clinical professor of medicine who is actively teaching, I can tell you, you could look it up, the one disease that is treated the least best in this country happened to be hypertension. In fact, a year or so ago, when the AMA had their annual meeting, they gave a group of senior medical students who attended the meeting, they let them try out how they were going to treat blood pressures. They messed it up pretty badly. So this is not me bad-mouthing this situation. This is the reality of it. Like it or not, that's the reality. And the reason why I emphasize the word Negro is because there are substances that the kidney produces, such as a substance called renin. which is different in the kidney of Caucasian folks and 100% different in all non-Caucasian folks. Let me repeat that. The level of renin, which is a substance that is produced by the kidney, which we have to try to attack that in order to treat the blood pressure. The level of renin is completely different in the kidneys of Caucasian person, truly Caucasian person, as it is in all non-Caucasian person, no matter what they think of themselves. And as a practicing physician, I can tell you how difficult. I'm not making excuses, nor am I saying things too positive for these guys or these ladies. I'm just simply saying to you the reality they face is the fact that nobody wants to be associated with blackness. Nobody wants to be associated with being a Negro, because the number one issue in America is race relation. So everybody, no matter where they came from, how they get here, as soon as they hit the airport, they all want to be associated with being Caucasian. That's it. That's the reality of it. Well, if you want to do that, but the consequence, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be what you want to be. That's your business. That's your right. However, there's a reality that you have to face. That is to say, the level of renin, I'm using that as an example. The level of renin in a truly Caucasian individual is normal, unless he or she has kidney failure or some other reason, renovascular hypertension. The renin is normal. If you have kidney failure, renovascular is going to be high. That's it. Otherwise, all Caucasian individuals who have normally functioning kidney has normal renin. But all non-Caucasian person, no matter who or what they think of themselves, has low renin. Okay? That's a genetic, God-given phenomena. And lots of the medications that are out there to treat hypertension must pass via the renin angiotensin inhibitor system, such as ACE inhibitors. They're all over the place. I have a long list of all the ACE inhibitors in chapter 1 of both of these books. I'm not going to sit here and name them to you. They're ACE. Nothing wrong with the ACE, but you cannot give them to a non-Caucasian person because there's not enough renin to block. The renin is low. So how are you going to give them an ACE inhibitor when there's no renin to block? How are you going to control the blood pressure? You cannot. Furthermore, you have done nothing to touch the last substance the kidney produces in the pathway that we use to treat blood pressure, which is aldosterone. Aldosterone is the last step. Aldosterone is a salt retainer. And I'm here to tell you the main reason why your pressure goes up is because you're retaining salt because of aldosterone. So if you're going to treat somebody, you're not going to attack aldosterone. How are you going to treat the blood pressure? Give me a break. You're not going to. Even if you were to treat the pressure temporarily by giving them a large dose, let's say, of an ACE or large dose of a calcium channel blocker, the kidney doesn't have a brain. Once the kidney senses that the pressure goes down, is one of the jobs of the kidney is to hold on to aldosterone, raise that level, to hold on to salt, to raise the pressure to keep the body alive. That's one of the things the kidney does to keep the body alive. The only way the kidney knows how to do that is to raise the level of salt that you're going to retain. Wherever salt goes, water goes, raise the pressure to keep the body alive. How about that? It's not that difficult. This is stuff that I'm teaching and others are teaching to medical students all the time. Stuff that we're teaching to interns and residents all the time. But why is not being done in practice? It's not being done enough in practice. So therefore, we have a crisis, which is why I wanted to do an update. What is the crisis? Well, this year, actually starting the beginning of the year, the FDA discovered there's several powerful medications we call A.B, angiotensin receptor 2 blocker, aldosterone receptor 2 blocker, we call them ARBs, have been contaminated. So the best medication that we have to treat hypertension have been contaminated by a factory in China and a factory in India by a cancer-causing agent. And as a result of that, all these medications have been recalled. You can't give an ARB anymore unjustified. That matter has not been resolved. There are more than a dozen different ARBs. They are the most fantastic medication because the ARB cover the entire pathway all the way to aldosterone to bring the pressure down. On top of that, ARB is fantastic to treat congestive heart failure because it also blocks aldosterone, which then causes the salt to go down, the water goes down, the congestive heart failure gets better. We can't get our hands on ARB anymore. How about that? So as a result, now you have people are getting medication, especially Negro people. That's where the word Negro comes in. Because even if you have 0.1% of non-Caucasian gene in you, you are a Negro, no matter what you look out exteriorly. Therefore, your renin is low. I'm not making a negative comment. I'm not saying it. This is the reality. That's the physiology. And that is the reason why the AMA has given grants to 33 medical schools have taken the grants of $2 million each to turn how medical students are being taught and how interns and residents are being taught right now so that they can understand the ethnicity and the cultural background of the individual they're practicing medicine for. Because if you don't, you're not going to provide quality medical care for them. You cannot. You could do surgery on them, yes, but not general clinical pediatrics, not general clinical medicine, not general OB. You cannot do it. Simple as that. And the powers to be now agree. And there's a movement right now to change this whole thing. So therefore, now a bunch of people are getting ACE, which is you need the normal level of renin to bring the pressure down, and all Negro folks, Negroid, men and women, Negres, I call them men and Negroes, they don't have enough renin. So therefore, you're giving them medication that's not going to help them. And that's the crisis existed even before this year. Now it's basically getting worse. Okay? So the bottom line is that we're going to be here for several weeks discussing update on hypertension, and I'll be telling you more and more stuff. Until such time, keep watching the show. This is Dr. Alcena saying so long and bye-bye.